but a previous trip to France, I went back and visit some friends, and I was speaking to one of my French friends, and I said something about, I was asking some of these questions, and she said, well, I don't understand that how Americans can eat or stand while eating. Why would you ever stand while eating? Because we were talking, I said, well, do you ever snack in the, she went, why would I ever waste the pleasure of food? And why, it's a pleasure focused culture. Yes. I take pleasure in my food. Therefore, I will not multitask. I will not be on a screen. I will eat and enjoy and sit down. She laughed. She went, I literally would never not sit down and give my meal anything I'm eating full attention. Because if you really won't see a lot of people, especially in Paris, like walking through the streets while they're eating. Maybe every now and then a sandwich. There's certain areas if you're close to a park, but it's not like people don't do things on the go. They value certain pleasure in life, and then they slow down for it. And it goes back to a little bit of like what you were saying of like, if you really feel loved, like we do all these things, but why? The real question is why? So I could feel loved. And I think the French culture has got so much pleasure. At least I'm going to speak to the French culture because I've spent so much time in France. Mm-hmm. There's so much openness about being loved, being attractive. They're just more open about, you're beautiful, you're attractive, you're lovable. We love this. We love the pleasure. Like it's just life is beauty. Why would you rush that? It's just, it's fascinating.
I'm just so curious, like how that we got in this culture that we don't like celebrate that stuff. I mean, even as you're talking, I'm thinking about it. Right before we got on this interview, I've been editing and working all morning. And literally my husband goes, have you eaten anything today? I'm like, I think I had half of a muffin before I took my daughter to school. So I sat in the kitchen. I stood in the kitchen and grabbed a piece of leftover steak and just cut it. I mean, literally as you're talking, and I cut it like on, a cutting board. I didn't put it on a plate. I didn't even heat it up. It was a cold piece of steak. I'm like, I got to eat something before I jump on this call. Like we do that. And even like when we know, like I know about this and I've studied things like the blue zones and the Mediterranean diets and like these different ways of life that I think are really where we need to go and that will help us actually like really embrace what life is. But even when I know this stuff, I still find myself in that habit, falling back into those habits of standing at the kitchen, scarfing down a piece of steak before I jump on this call. Like that that didn't happen overnight. Like it's something
to say our culture doesn't have time. Our culture doesn't make time to eat.
Yeah.
As if it's like, right, we've got this like weird relationship with food. So, it happens because you see other people saying, oh, I don't need to take a lunch break. I'll just work while I eat lunch. And it's like, these are all micro dismissals of basic human pleasure, I think. Mm-hmm. I think as achievers, we're like, I can have pleasure once I do this, and this. And then that sets people up to drink a bottle of wine at night by accident. Because you're like, well, I'm going to be really like, and then you haven't eaten all day. We're so productivity focused that we don't know what we actually want. I think we get sucked in. I think honestly, if you come from a culture where there's a lot of high achieving people around you, you just don't even question. And you go, this is what people do who are successful. I think really the question is we have to start asking ourselves, what is success?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's like, when is that enough going to be enough? Because as a high achieving person, as a motivated person, you're never going to hit that. Okay, I've achieved it. Now I could relax and enjoy myself. And like, what are we working for? Like, what are we doing this all for? There's like you said, we do need to come back to these simple parts of life that we don't. And I think that's where, spirituality comes in and things like faith. And like, we need to remember what we're doing here. Because we are constantly on the go and it does not, there's no health benefits to us. We are over medicated. We are over anxious. We are exhausted. Like everything is wrong. I mean, even the food, like going back to even food, the food we eat in the States, so much of it is, you can't even get abroad because it's like banned. Like, what is this instant gratification that we think we need to have here versus like, okay, let's sit down and enjoy ourselves. And I'm guilty. I'm right there that. So I'm just kind of like, why? Like, why are we wired this way?